Olá, gente, boa tarde, bem-vindos a mais um Guide Your Future, a nossa live semanal sobre estudos no exterior. Meu nome é Gabriela, eu sou a College Counselor do Colégio Positivo Internacional, e hoje a gente vai receber o Micah, o representante da University of Toronto, que vai contar um pouquinho para a gente sobre o processo de admissão da universidade, vai tirar as dúvidas de vocês sobre os cursos, sobre os requisitos do IB, falar um pouquinho sobre oportunidades de auxílio financeiro, bolsas de estudo. E caso vocês tenham alguma pergunta, vocês podem deixar aqui nos nossos comentários, no chat, para a gente responder. O Micah fala um pouquinho de português, então, se vocês não se sentirem confortáveis escrevendo em inglês, pode escrever em português que ele vai entender, ele já morou aqui no Brasil. So, Micah, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon, boa tarde a todos.
See, I told you can speak Portuguese.
Okay.
So thank you so much for accepting our invitation, for being here with us to talk to our students.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm absolutely delighted to connect with Colégio Positivo today.
Yeah, that's great. So you can start your presentation and tell us a little bit more about the University of Toronto.
Okay, just a moment while I share my screen.
Okay.
Okay.
You can see it. Yeah.
There you go. So I will take a few minutes to talk about the University of Toronto. Just a quick introduction. My name is Micah from the University of Toronto. I've been involved in admissions and student recruitment for almost 20 years now. And just about the last maybe 5 years, I've been really doing a lot more international recruitment, working with some great schools and students around the world. I'm always absolutely thrilled to connect with a Brazilian audience because, as you heard, I actually did live in Brazil for a few years. When I was young, when I was in high school, I did an intercâmbio where I lived in Recife for 1 full year and loved it so much, had such an incredible experience living in Brazil that when I came home, I finished high school, I went to university, and when I graduated, the first thing I did was find a job in São Paulo, and I lived there for an additional 2 years. So that's 3 years in total that I lived in Brazil. Now, of course, I go back for travel to visit friends and family, but also working with Brazilian schools. And I can't wait to come back and to be able to meet with great students like yourselves in the near future, once things are safe enough to do so.
Yeah, that would be great. We'd be happy to have you.
Oh, I can't wait. Probably not in the next few months, but maybe next August or September, I will be doing another
Hopefully
trip.
in the near future, we'll be safe enough for you to come.
I know. I hope so, too. I can't wait. Anyway, I'm going to use a couple of minutes to talk about the University of Toronto. It is a big, fabulous, wonderful university. It would take me hours to be able to tell you everything that I would love to be able to tell you, all the amazing stories, to be able to answer all of your questions. Obviously, we don't have that much time. So briefly, I'm going to go through the most important information that I think students really need to know about the University of Toronto. Now, basically, there's a few themes and a few common messages about the university. You're going to see that it is an absolute top quality, world-renowned university, definitely recognized as being one of the best in the world. And we'll give you a few reasons why that's the case. The University of Toronto is a very big university, but it doesn't look like it and it doesn't feel like it. All of our students really say they belong to a small, intimate community, a little close-knit family experience while they're at the university. So I want to talk about the network of communities. And last but not least, one of the things that I get very excited about is the number of options, the number of choices of things that are available for students to get involved in, to really pick and choose and mix and match both inside and outside of the classroom, and a very flexible system that lets you kind of decide, even while you're here, what direction you want to go in. So those are the three key messages that I'm going to focus on. Once I'm finished talking about them, I'll talk a little bit about the application and the admissions and the timeline and show you how to get additional information after that. Once I'm finished, I'm hoping to be able to hear your questions, where you can either type them or ask in your real voice, or whatever works best. And as you heard, you can either type or speak in Portuguese or in English. I'm good either way. So we're going to jump into this presentation and obviously begin with this discussion about the quality of the University of Toronto. It is Canada's top university, consistently ranked the #1 in the country. There are hundreds or thousands of reasons why it is as good as it is. I'm going to focus on just one, and it's all about the research. We are a research-intensive university. For almost 200 years, our goal has been to be the top research university in the world. We've invested in the best labs with the best equipment, the best resources, built up the biggest and best libraries, and we've attracted some of the greatest minds in the world to come to the University of Toronto to do their work, to try and find answers to the questions that nobody in the world knows the answers to. And because of the infrastructure at the University of Toronto, they are consistently able to find the answers to those questions. They write the book, they teach the world, they win big awards, and a cycle of excellence continues year after year. So this is actually an outdated slide. Last week, it was announced that we are now the 16th best university in the world. So we're very, very proud of that. I haven't updated my slide yet, but we're right now sitting at the number 16 best in the world. Wow. Fun fact, there are both private and publicly funded universities on that list. If you remove the private and compare University of Toronto with the best public universities, we are in fact one of the top 10, probably sitting in the number 5 or number 6 spot.
Wow.
And just in case there was any doubt, that is the #1 university in all of Canada. We do outrank every other university in the country. So no matter what you want to study, no matter what you want to learn about, no matter what you're interested in or where in the world you go after university, when you tell people you went to the University of Toronto, oh, there's a recognition, there's this measurement of excellence, of accomplishment, and of achievement. There is a legacy that comes from belonging to the University of Toronto community. Now, speaking of community, it is a large university, but it's one that's made up of this network of small, intimate, and inclusive communities. But before we explore those, let's explore the main community that the university is located in, the city of Toronto and the country of Canada, one of the world's most livable regions. Now, a few things that you need to know about it. Canada makes it as easy as possible for international students to come and visit and to stay. So for getting your visa, for getting your study permit, it's one of the easiest countries in order to come here. Not only can you come very easily, but while you're going to school, you're allowed to work and earn your own income while you're going to school, which is very beneficial. And after you graduate, you don't have to leave. You're allowed to stay for 3 full years working full time after you've completed your degree. Basically, we have an open door policy for immigration. We want young, hardworking, educated people from around the world to decide to come to Canada. And so we've made it as easy as possible to allow you to do that. So that's one benefit of coming to Canada. It's safe, it's beautiful, it's friendly. But when you're looking at the city of Toronto, it is literally recognized as being the most multicultural city in the world. The ethnicity of the people that call Toronto their home are from everywhere. So this is amazing for a lot of different reasons, just getting to know people from around the world. It's an incredible city for sports, if you love sports, because of the professional sports teams that we have, but also for international competitions like the Olympics or the World Cup. You, as Brazilians, might be used to the whole country cheering on your team, but in Toronto, every street, every neighborhood, every part of the city is cheering on a different team. So the festivals and the sounds and the smells and the colors are really, really exciting. My favorite thing about Toronto is the food. Being as ethnical and multicultural as we are, you have some of the best restaurants in the world. So no matter what you feel like, no matter what you're craving, you will find some amazing restaurants. And that goes along with the Brazilian culture as well. You might wake up on a Saturday morning and think to yourself, hoje eu tenho vontade de comer uma feijoada. So you go out and find an amazing Brazilian restaurant to get that flavor of home. And that's some of the exciting things about Toronto. The University of Toronto, as I keep saying, is not only the best university in the country, but it is the biggest. But our students aren't just all in one big place, sort of competing over the resources that are available. There is such a diverse set of communities on campus. In fact, it's not just one campus, but there are 3 different distinct campuses. And we want our students to choose one of the 3 to belong to go to when they are choosing the University of Toronto. So how do you know which campus to go to? There's a few things to keep in mind. Number one, there's absolutely no difference whatsoever in terms of the quality of anything, the quality of everything, the reputation, the legacy, the degree is all the University of Toronto. But the neighborhood, the size, and the community is different at the 3 campuses. Just west of the city of Toronto, the mid-sized campus is University of Toronto, Mississauga. There's about 15,000 students that go there. It's on about 200 acres of green space and parkland, and it's the only campus that's self-contained. So there are no city streets that run through the campus. There's basically one entrance, and then everything you see is part of that U of T campus. Our founding campus is right in the middle of downtown Toronto, the biggest city in the country, the biggest university campus in the country, and it's called St. George. So if you're really looking for that big city experience, if you want to be part of a large community, the St. George campus is for you. And there's about 50,000 students that go to the St. George campus alone. On the east side of the city of Toronto, you've got the smallest of the 3 called University of Toronto Scarborough. Now that's only small with its population because it's got a few less people than Mississauga, about 14,000 students. But interesting, fun fact, the Scarborough campus is the biggest of the 3 considering its actual physical geographic space. It's on 300 acres of green space, parkland, with kilometers and kilometers of trails to see and explore, and all surrounded in a family residential neighborhood for a safe, beautiful, more intimate experience. So once again, there is only one University of Toronto, but you can choose the campus that you identify with, that you're comfortable with, the one that you think you're going to really belong to, and we will give you that world-class education. Now, speaking of that education, there are lots of different options of things that you can get involved in, both inside and outside of the classroom. And our system is so flexible that you can really explore and discover and really choose anything at all that you like, and you can create your own unique academic pathway. So how many programs do we actually have available? Over 700.
Wow.
Over 700 different programs that you could choose to study at U of T. This means that there's programs that you can't even think of, that you've never even imagined, that you've never even dreamed that you could do at a university, just waiting for you. Some students already know exactly what they would like to study at university, and that's great, no problem, you can do that. But some students, they don't know exactly what they want. They are interested in a number of different programs. And with our flexible system, you can actually come, you can take anything at all that you like, whatever looks interesting, whatever you think you might enjoy, and you can decide later on what direction you would like to pursue at the University of Toronto. Out of those 700 programs, you'll find that some of them are a minor, some of them are a major, and some of them are a specialist. All this means is the number of courses that you take that are directly related to the program you choose. For example, if there was one program, one subject that you were more interested in than anything else, you would probably want to specialize in that program. Now, over the 4 years that it takes you to graduate, about 75% of all of your courses, of everything that you're learning, is directly related to a specialist program. Notice that it's not 100%, it's 75%. So even in a specialist, there's still lots of room to take other things than what you're focusing on. I know that when you go to university in Brazil, just about 100% of your courses are your program. There's not so much breadth or flexibility, and we really do focus on that. A major is about a half of all of your courses, and a minor is about a quarter of all of your courses. And you can actually combine different programs together. You could specialize in one program and take a bunch of electives, or you could specialize in one program and minor in another one. Or you could do a double major in 2 different programs, or you could do a major and 2 minors in a second and a third program. So when you think about it, there's 700 programs to choose from. You can pick any one, any 2, or even any 3 that you wish, and you don't have to decide when you're applying to come in. You can decide that later on. So that's the flexibility that I get very excited about. Now, no matter what you choose, we want you to graduate career ready, job ready. There's certain skills that you have to develop that not everybody teaches in the classroom. And so we have all of these initiatives of experiential learning, learning by doing. So it might be what you would call an estagio or an internship, co-op programs that get paid work experience built into the program. All the research you can imagine, professional placements, service learning, all kinds of ways to get up off campus, out into the real world, to see what people are doing, to develop those skills that will complement your academic skills that we've been teaching you in the classroom. So that's something that all U of T students can look forward to. If the most multicultural city in the world wasn't quite international enough for you, this international hub of intellectual activity isn't quite global enough, if you wanted to study at the University of Toronto, but also go to another country, we have got some amazing options with our study abroad partnerships. There's university partners all over the world that are inviting you to do some really fun, exciting, cool short-term summer programs, or you could do a full-time semester or even a full-time year in another country, taking courses that count towards your University of Toronto degree. Now, the last thing about that student experience is that even though we have many students, and even though they're very diverse from all around the world, they do tend to have at least one thing in common. They are active. They're not idle. They love to be involved in the community. They love to play sports. They love the arts. They're playing music or singing or dancing or acting in theater. They're interested in leadership opportunities. They like to join the different clubs, social, economic, political, religious initiatives, whatever you might possibly be interested in. There is a community and a vibrant student life at the University of Toronto. So if this looks interesting and you think you might like to apply, let's walk you through the application process. It is a 2-step process. Step number 1 is very quick, very easy. All you have to do is complete an online form that basically just tells us who you are, what you would like to study, and what your contact information is. That's it. That can be done in about 10 minutes. It's available now for people that want to apply next year. You don't need any supporting documents, school records, essays, profiles, predicted grades. You don't need anything like that in order to submit the initial application. All of that stuff comes later. Once you've completed that initial application, we will then send you an email acknowledging that we received your application and saying, okay, now let's get down to work. There's a bunch of things you might need to know. We're going to need all those documents, so we will give you all of the detailed instructions of how, when, and where to complete all of those next steps. So there is an applicant portal, which we call Join U of T. And on this applicant portal, we'll tell you what you need to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. We'll give you those instructions. We'll tell you what documents we need from you and when they need to be submitted. You can check the status of your application to make sure everything is okay. You can apply for residence if you wanted to live on campus, which is guaranteed for all first-year students. And you can apply for certain scholarships, all after you submit your initial application to the university. So other universities in other countries usually require that stuff together with the initial application, but ours comes later on. Now, what are the actual admissions requirements? This varies from curriculum to curriculum. And I understand that at your school, most of you would be completing the International Baccalaureate Diploma.
Yes.
So in order to know exactly what requirements we need, what are the courses that we need to see what the prerequisite courses are for the different programs, I would encourage you to go to the future.utoronto.ca website, where you can see exactly what IB students need to qualify and be eligible and be competitive for admission to the University of Toronto. Now, of course, you may have specific questions, and when I'm finished, hopefully I can answer those questions. For now, I'll answer one of the most important questions talking about money. So it's important to know roughly how much it costs to go to the University of Toronto, to live and survive in Toronto. But it's nice to know that there are scholarships that international students can qualify for. So first of all, how much does it actually cost? There are a lot of different variables that will affect the overall cost. So I can't give you an exact number, but I can tell you if you add up all of your fees, all of your tuition and living expenses and school supplies, everything that you would need to live and survive and go to the University of Toronto, it's usually about 80,000 Canadian dollars per year. So that's all things included, 80,000 Canadian dollars per year. Now, we do not have financial aid for international students. So we can't give bolsa de estudos, bursaries. We can't help you with those resources, but we do have merit-based scholarships. So there's lots and lots of different scholarships that you could qualify for. I'm only going to focus on the top 3 biggest scholarships. The biggest one is the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship. You have to be nominated by your school to qualify. We receive nominations from all around the world. We have a team of people that review those in order to decide who the recipients would be. We do give out about 37 Pearson scholarships per year. Now, that's the biggest scholarship, and that is essentially a full ride, all expense paid scholarship. So if anybody gets the Pearson, then the 80,000 drops down to virtually zero. That obviously makes things affordable.
Yeah.
The second biggest scholarship is an automatic consideration. You don't need to be nominated. You don't have to apply for it. We look at your predicted grades, your final grades, and with an offer of admission, we will tell you if we can give you that scholarship. It will be approximately, give or take, 50,000 Canadian dollars. And we give out lots and lots and lots of those scholarships. So many people will get them. Now, keep in mind, 50,000 is a lot of money, but it's a lot less than 80,000, and there's no additional financial aid. So if you don't get the Pearson, even if you get the second biggest scholarship, there's still about 30,000 Canadian dollars that you would need from your own personal financial resources. The third biggest scholarship is about $25,000, and we give out even more of those. So lots and lots of people will get them. Again, 25,000 seems like a lot, but it's significantly less than the total amount you would need. So you do need a plan to make sure you've got the resources you need to attend the University of Toronto. After those top three big scholarships, there's lots of additional scholarships you might get, but they are much, much, much smaller, and they would all be under $10,000. And so, it might be nice to get one, but it's not going to make much of an impact. Most of that money would be required to come from you or your family. So I always encourage people to realistically have a plan, have a budget, talk to their parents to make sure that this is a feasible option, because it breaks my heart when very good, dedicated, excited students get an offer of admission, but they don't get the scholarship funding or the bursary, and so they can't afford to come on their own. So I will conclude the presentation on that, but I will encourage you to go to the discover.utoronto.ca website. This is where you can book a virtual campus tour for all three campuses to really have a look around. You can connect with current students to chat with them and ask them your questions. You can connect with staff like myself to ask us your questions. You can see interesting events that we've got planned in the near future and register and sign up to attend those events, or a whole series of pre-recorded presentations that are available on demand that you can watch anytime you want. All this and more on the discover.utoronto.ca website. So that concludes my formal presentation, but with the little time that we have left, I would love to know if there's any questions at all from me.
Ok, então se vocês tiverem alguma pergunta para o Micah, agora é o momento de vocês escreverem aqui nos comentários, né? So Micah, I would like to ask you a few questions regarding the IB requirements. That's a popular topic for our students.
Yes.
Okay, we know that Canadian universities usually have more strict requirements regarding, for example, programs like engineering, for instance. Some universities would require like chemistry higher level, for example. What happens if the school does not offer that specific subject? Is the student penalized for that? Is there a way around it? Can the student make up for that in any way?
Yes.
To fulfill this requirement and be able to apply?
So this is a good question, and it's a very common question. And I'm glad you mentioned engineering, because they are normally the ones where applicants have trouble. And the reason is engineering requires English, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. And I know that IB students around the world often find it impossible to take all of those within the IB diploma. So if you are applying to engineering, if you see these prerequisites, you cannot opt out. The prerequisite is firm. You have to have it, but it doesn't have to be within IB. For example, if you're taking the Brazilian national curriculum, like Terceiro physics, that satisfies. That's like equivalent to the IB physics. Or you might take physics in IB, but you can take the Brazilian mathematics, which satisfies our mathematics. If you don't take it in the Brazilian curriculum or the IB curriculum, or you aren't sure if the course you have meets our requirements, you can always take the actual Ontario grade 12 course, which is available online. There are virtual schools, and I can recommend the websites where you can take the actual Ontario, the original prerequisite.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you can take that on your own to satisfy the requirements.
Oh, so they can do it online?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Good to know. Many of our students are going to be relieved now.
That's good to know.
You know, the chemistry higher level was a big issue this year because of the engineering candidates, the applicants, and because of the medicine applicants as well. So that was, for the UK, for instance, the UK has stricter requirements for medicine and for engineering that are harder to fulfill in any other way. So I was reading your website earlier doing some research with a student of ours who's interested in applying. And we could see that besides the IB diploma, they have to have the certificado de conclusão do ensino médio and the name, and it also mentioned something about the vestibular. Could you clarify that?
Yes. So we know that sometimes when students go to an international school, or if they're taking something like the IB diploma, many of them are taking whatever their domestic curriculum simultaneous with the international curriculum.
Yes.
So that means if you graduate with a full IB diploma and the Certificado de Conclusão do Ensino Médio, you actually get to choose which curriculum you want us to look at and to review and to assess. So if you choose IB, we don't really look at the Brazilian curriculum. If you choose Brazilian, then we don't really look at the IB. Now, if a student chooses the Brazilian curriculum, or if they just go to a normal domestic school, they don't have the IB, then we would look at the Brazilian curriculum, but those students must take either Enem or vestibular. If you are an IB student and you say, I want to be considered based on my IB diploma, we do not require Enem or vestibular. That's not a part of IB, so we don't need that at all. So a student can choose which curriculum they want to present to us, but they have to take all of the parts of that curriculum. And we don't expect people to mix different curriculums. So another question, sometimes people will say, do I need SATs? They might be preparing SATs to go to the USA, and they think it might help their application. Unless they go to an American school and they're following a full American curriculum, we do not need the SATs, and we don't want to see them. We only want to see the curriculum that you are following.
Oh, that's good to know. This is very, very clarifying. I just wanted to talk about your application deadline as well. What is the application deadline for fall 2022?
Okay, great question. There's always a lot of confusion about this.
Yes.
We have a real firm deadline, which is January 13th, 2022. That's the real deadline. However, we very strongly recommend that international students apply as early as they can. And so we have kind of a fake artificial deadline that we suggest international students use, which has actually passed. It was November 7th.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. So if you are applying for September 2022, we encourage you to apply by November 7th, but there's absolutely no disadvantage if you missed November 7th, as long as you apply by January 13th. We just say the earlier you apply, the better. The quicker you can submit your documents, the earlier you can get an offer of admission.
Okay, that's good to know, because one of our students was kind of frustrated because he thought he couldn't apply anymore. So maybe that's really great news for him. And so can we talk a little bit more about the application process? Once the student fills out the application form, what are the documents you require?
Okay, so once a student fills out the initial application, then we send them an email saying we've received their application, and we tell them what are the necessary steps. There will be a self-reported grades form. So this is where they can tell us which curriculum they are following. If it's more than one curriculum, which curriculum would they like us to assess them on? And they can tell us what grades they expect to be getting. So it's kind of like predicted grades in the student's own perspective. If they choose the IB, we would then need their actual predicted grades. Now,
we already have them.
You've got them.
Yeah.
Good. Different schools do things differently. So sometimes staff like yourself, Gabriela, would make the predicted grades and not show the students. They keep that confidential from the students. And so the school would have to upload that or send that directly to us. Other schools have no trouble giving the predicted grades to the students. And if the student has it, that's what you do. Then the student can take that and upload it directly to their Join U of T page.
Good to know. So as far as the high school transcripts, do you need like certified translations, or just the IB predicted grade? How does it work? Do you need
So
both?
again, IB is going to be in English. And so if the student chooses to be assessed based on their IB, then they don't need to translate anything.
Oh, wow. That's great. Good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And so, yeah, but if they choose the Brazilian and everything is in Portuguese, then that would need to be translated. So that's like just one additional step if somebody chooses that route.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the language requirement.
Okay.
Does the University of Toronto accept the IB English B, English language B, as proof of English proficiency? Or should the students take IELTS or TOEFL or any similar exams?
Okay, so within the IB diploma, the minimum requirement is a score of at least 4 in the HL or SL English A literature or English A language and literature.
Okay.
English B, unfortunately, is not acceptable.
Okay.
So if a student doesn't have the right English course in IB, then they will have to take IELTS or TOEFL or Duolingo.
You accept Duolingo as well?
We do.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And do you know the minimum score for each of them?
Yes. So Duolingo will be a minimum score of 120. Let me see. IELTS is a minimum requirement of 6.5 with no band below 6. And TOEFL will be 100 overall with at least 22 in the writing section.
Okay, the writing section. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's good to know. That's also a very common question. So do you require, as it is so common in the US universities, do you require any recommendation letters or personal statements, personal essays, extracurricular activities? Do you require any of those?
Most programs, surprisingly, do not.
Okay.
Most programs do not, but there are some important exceptions to the rule.
Okay.
So if a student is applying to one of our limited enrollment programs, there are a few that require a supplementary application. So usually engineering, computer science, business, commerce or management, architectural studies, performance music, those programs will have some element where we need to know what types of activities the student is involved in, what they do in their spare time, whether or not they have any leadership experience. So that is a requirement for some people, but most programs do not require that. And again, they don't need to do this in order to submit their initial application. After they apply, we'll give them the instructions of how, when, and where to complete that step.
Okay, that's really good to know. So what else? What would a good IB score be for you? Like, what are you looking for? Is there a minimum score?
There is a minimum, but it's very, very low, and it doesn't guarantee their admission. It just means they're guaranteed not to be refused admission right away. But admission is competitive, so it's always the higher the score, the better their chances. Things like computer science or engineering would be like a low 40s. The business programs, a high 30s. Other life science programs, biological sciences, a mid 30s. And then other programs like the arts, humanities, or social sciences would be a low 30s.
Okay, very competitive. Yeah, very competitive. No, that's good to know. And how you mentioned the accommodation also. So you said the accommodation is guaranteed for freshman students.
Yes.
So where are they going to live? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So all 3 campuses have their own student housing buildings. There's different styles. So your classic traditional dorm style, we've got apartment style residence, townhouse style residence, and actually downtown there's a hotel style residence because about 20 years ago we bought a 5-star hotel and turned it into a residence. So yeah, there's a few different options. Students would choose which campus they would like to go to. They would look at the residence options available at that campus and choose whichever one they think they would be most comfortable in. Some of them have fully equipped kitchens so they can prepare all their own meals. Some of them do not have any kitchen, so they need to have a meal plan to be able to eat the food on campus. Some of them are guaranteed single bedrooms, so they don't have a roommate, but usually those are in a shared suite style. So there might be 4 people that live in one apartment, but they all have their own bedrooms. Others will be shared bedrooms, so you might have 1 or 2 people in the same room, sleeping and living in that space. So lots of different options, but really they choose first the campus, then they can start to look at the residence options available.
Okay.
Like I say, living on campus is guaranteed for your first year. It is not impossible to remain in residence for your second, third, or fourth years. It's just no longer guaranteed. And what we find is that oftentimes they stay for residence for 1 year,
Yes.
and then they just decide to get an apartment or something to get a house with friends and move off campus for their second year. That's common.
Okay. And is the accommodation part of that 80,000 Canadian dollars you mentioned? Is it part
Yes.
of the tuition? Okay.
Yes, that 80,000 is just a very big, rough estimate of all things. So, it's, if you had exactly $80,000, you would be able to pay your tuition, your residence, your food. You'd have a little bit left over for your cell phone plan and your bus pass.
Like personal expenses, books, and everything else. Okay, that's good to know. And how about health insurance?
It's included in the 80,000. That's
also-
basically,
that's good.
health insurance is included in the tuition.
It's the whole package.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a question actually from Artur. Artur is one of the students I mentioned who's very interested in applying for the University of Toronto next year. So he's asking, hey, I'm Arthur. I am in 11th grade. I am in 11th grade and would like to know what are the characteristics you're looking for in students applying for the Pearson Scholarship.
Wonderful question, and I thank you, Artur, for asking. There's kind of like 2 main elements that will get you considered for the Pearson Scholarship. Number 1 is just overall academic excellence. Now, what I tell people is you don't have to be the absolute best student in your school, but you should be one of them. So if you are considered one of the top students in your school, then that's a definite advantage to you. But the academics is not the most important factor. As long as you are a strong student, we look at the second factor, which is really a commitment to making the world a better place, making your community a better place, helping people, taking the initiative to do something that needs to be done, but nobody else is doing it, leadership, problem solving, really making an impact, helping others in the community. And if you've got experience doing that while doing very well in school, then you'll be a strong candidate for the Pearson Scholarship.
Oh, that's good to know. Hopefully Arthur will be one of them.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think, it helps to know a little bit about who the scholarship was named after. So if you can research Lester B. Pearson and who he was and what his legacy is, what he gave to the world, you'll know why we chose to name the scholarship after him, and maybe you can kind of imitate him a little bit to make yourself a good candidate for the scholarship.
Okay, so you mentioned you award about 37 of those scholarships for students all over the world, right?
Yes.
Oh,
We receive about 3,000 nominations per year. And from the 3,000, we have to choose the 37 that we think are the best fit.
Okay, very competitive,
Yeah.
but an incredible opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully one of our students will get there someday. Hopefully Arthur, who knows?
I would be so happy for you if that happened.
Yeah, that would be great. So do you guys have any more questions for Micah? I think I've covered everything I had,
I'm not seeing the number of people on our call. Do you have a number of people that have joined us?
Well, right now we have 8 people.
Okay.
So far. Arthur, I know, was one of the students interested. We have another student interested in the computer science program. So you were mentioning for that program, the desired IB score would be in the low 40s.
Well, it's not that it's
Yeah.
a desired score. It's just that it's a
Uh-huh.
very competitive program. So what we'll do is we'll look at the best students available that have applied for it and to
Mm-hmm.
kind of work from the top down. And so if the program fills up before we can admit somebody, that means
Okay.
they weren't quite competitive enough. So
Yes,
that's
I know
why,
what you mean.
you want to have very strong grades to get into the computer science.
You have a holistic review of the applicant. Like you look
Yeah.
at the grades, you look at the. You don't have a personal statement, you mentioned, right? They don't
Um,
have to write any essays.
So here's the thing, computer science is available at all three campuses. The
Okay.
quality of the program is exactly the same at all three campuses, but the one at the St. George campus, which is downtown Toronto, is a little bit more competitive. And so
Okay.
therefore you have to have higher grades to get into that one than at the other campuses. And because it's so competitive, only the St. George campus computer science program requires that personal profile. The other
Okay.
campuses do not. So
Okay.
if you like the idea of going to a smaller campus, it's actually easier to get into computer science than it is downtown.
That's good to know. This kind of information is really, really helpful. Um, I think I think this is it. If you guys don't have any more questions for Micah, I would like to thank you once again for being here with us today, for joining us. Hopefully, we'll have more students interested and applying to the University of Toronto soon. I know there is another question from Artur. So I would like to know what are the opportunities available for architecture and the design areas and also the business area?
Okay, so we have a whole faculty dedicated to architecture and design. It has a long name, so if you can remember this, it's the John H. Daniels Faculty of Architecture, Landscape, and Design. So this is where all the creative, artistic people go. It's got the visual studies program, which is drawing and painting and sculpture, interior design, graphic design, landscaping design, like gardens or parks or golf courses. But it also is traditional architecture, designing houses, buildings, or any other structure. So we have incredible opportunities for people that are interested in design in that Daniels faculty. Business is available at all three campuses. There's actually two different business programs. One of them is called commerce, the other is called management. And the main difference is that commerce focuses mainly on the financial aspects of business. So it's a lot more mathematical. There's a lot more numbers, finance, the banking industry, the stock market, investing money so it grows in value. Management is more the people side of business. So developing your leadership and problem solving, communication, how to run a company or open a company if you're entrepreneurial. That's what you would get in a management program. So there's commerce and management for business, or there's the Daniels Faculty of Architecture, Landscape Design, or Visual Studies. So Artur, you should find something that you're excited about.
Oh, that's great. That's really good to know. Um, I had one more question. I just forgot it now. Oh, yes, I remember now. You mentioned you have like a specialist and a major and a minor, right?
Yes.
Do do they have to be connected, like in the same field in the same area, or they can be from different
Literally anything.
anything?
Yeah, you can do a double major in two completely different programs that
Yeah.
have nothing to do with each other. Or you could, specialize in one and minor in a different one just because it looks fun or something you might like. Sometimes people will minor in like a second language. So they're taking the
Mhm.
language courses that they feel complements whatever they're specializing in. It's just entirely what you would like to do.
No, that's good. This the flexibility you mentioned before, the student not having to commit to a specific major when applying to the university is really a big benefit, a big advantage.
I think
Because
so. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
me
different
too.
system, and so sometimes it's confusing to people. Like, how do I know exactly what program to choose?
Exactly.
But yeah, it's nice that you have that flexibility to
Yeah,
learn about the
exactly.
system and see what your options are and see what's available and what you like and what you're good at, and kind of decide while you're
Yeah.
there rather than plan out your whole life in advance.
Yes, exactly. Especially when they are so young,
I know.
they have many interests. It's hard for you to find a high school senior who's absolutely sure of what they want to do. So this is a great opportunity for them to experiment, right?
I
So
agree.
they can get in contact with different areas, different subjects, experiment a little bit here and there, and then make a more informed decision. Uh, Arthur has another one. Do the arts major require a portfolio?
No, they do not require a portfolio. The visual arts program that I just mentioned, that's part of the Daniels faculty, it does have one of those supplementary forms. So it's one of the exceptions to the rule, one of the few programs that asks for additional information from you. Surprisingly, it's kind of interesting. It's more of an essay than anything else. They're going to ask you a question and they want you to write basically the creative problem, or sorry, the creative solution to a problem. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where there's no right or wrong answer, but if they suggest a problem, what creative solution to that problem would you come up with? That's what the essay is for the visual studies program. Now, they allow you to use examples of your work, like photography or pictures, design, something that you've done in the past, you can use as part of your essay. And that would make for a really good supplementary form. So it's not a portfolio, but it's more of an essay that you can sample your work in.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And don't forget, they
Um,
give you lots of time to prepare for that after you
yeah.
apply.
Yes, yes, that's a good one. And what are your most popular majors? What are you known for?
Um, it's hard to say because we are this, really big international
Yeah.
university. The overall quality is, really quite impressive. And with so many different programs, if I highlighted one program, it almost does a disservice to all the other programs.
Yeah.
We have everything. We are a science school, we're an art school, we're a business school, we're an engineering school, kinesiology, physical education, performance music. We have it all, and everything is top quality. So whatever somebody's looking for, they will probably find at University of Toronto.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I think we will have more students interested. So hopefully we'll be in touch soon. So I'd like to thank you once again for joining us today, for answering our students' questions.
Yeah.
The video will remain available for anyone who wants to watch it or rewatch it on YouTube. So anyone interested, you can contact me or Micah. We can answer your questions or help you to apply to the university. And I think that's it. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Micah.
It was an absolute pleasure. I'm always happy to be the main point of contact for the entire University of Toronto. So any question that anybody has, I'm happy to help out. If any of the students need my personal email, Gabrielle, I know that you've got it.
Yes,
Please
yes,
feel free. Don't hesitate. You can pass that on to anybody who needs it. And I certainly wish to help answer your questions, support your application to the university, and really make sure that you're comfortable with this process because it's a big, big, big process, a big
yes.
decision you have to make. But Gabriela, thank you so much for
Thank
inviting me
you.
onto this platform to connect with your students. And I really look forward to developing a strong, mutually beneficial relationship moving forward.
Yes,
But
definitely,
again,
definitely. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you here
yes.
soon enough when it's safe. And thank you. Thank you once
Ok.
again.
Thank you. Good luck. And
Thank
tudo
you.
de bom para vocês.
Obrigada.
De nada.
Bye bye.
Tchau, gente.